I would have thought that JOHL is a subsidiary of GNPC.
Fine. Let me ask a question directly.
Yeah.
Let me ask the question directly. He wants to know. There has been an issue here. He wants to know whether it is true or not. There is some allegation, has been allegation that there doesn't appear to have been any capital gains paid. As far as you know, GNPC, has there been a payment of capital gains tax? Yes or no?
So, Honorable Chair, I know that some payments were made to Government of Ghana.
Full stop.
Yes.
Thank you.
By Anadako, yes.
Okay.
Can we kindly be apprised of how much has been paid so far out of the $164.7 million? I'm referring to the acquisition amount from the Ministry of Finance.
Okay. So
yes, paid back to the Ministry of Finance.
Out of that amount, we have paid 60 million to Government of Ghana, and we intend to pay more when received from other liftings that we've made coming. Yes.
And again, I have been going through all the budget statements. It doesn't reflect in any documents in Parliament. Do you have any guidance in that direction? Any records of that payment?
Honorable Chair, if you can repeat your question, please.
Is there any record of the payment of $60 million?
Oh, yes.
Can you share with us? Because we don't have any record. I've gone through all the budget statements, even the media review. It doesn't reflect.
We can make copies to you, the SWIFT messages and transfers. We can make those available to you. Yeah. And I'm sure Ministry of Finance, if the request is made to them, will confirm that they've received the 60 million from us.
My final question to you relates to what appears to indicate that this was not the original thinking of GNPC. If you look at page 9 of the PIAC report, it says that although the acquisitions were initially intended to be held by GNPC ex Bloco, they are in fact being held by JOHL. My colleagues on the Mines and Energy Committee also have indicated that when you met them, you didn't give indication that this will be some permanent subsidiary and that ex Bloco will be in charge of this whole transaction. What accounts for this change in policy? And is it a case that some of these institutions are feeling quite misled, that you appear to have misled them, or you are not particularly transparent in dealing with them? How do you respond to that?
Honorable Chair, we haven't misled anybody. We're still in the process of assigning the stake to ex Bloco. So that original objective or original intent hasn't changed. As I said, the structure of the transaction wasn't dictated by GNPC. When we mentioned to our stakeholders and the other oversight bodies, we thought that we're going to buy the stake, not the company. But obviously, the structure changed, and we had to buy the company. So we're going through the process. In fact, or indeed, the approval that we got from the Ministry of Energy was very specific, that it needed to be assigned to ex Bloco. And the board of GNPC is going through the process of assigning that.
Thank you very much. Honorable
Chair, though I said finally, can we know what will happen to JOHL when you complete the process, just for the record?
It will be dissolved as a company, yeah.
Thank you very much. Honorable Patrick Boma, do you have any questions for the witness?
No, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied with the answers provided. Thank
Honorable Senator Ajiman Rawlings.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. I would like to know, in your earlier submission, I think your manager of legal mentioned that GNPC had to take advantage of the opportunity however it presented itself. does that mean that it was with the willingness to more or less overlook certain requirements in terms of a company having to be registered in Ghana before you could actually do this? Because from what we've been informed of so far, JOHL did not become registered until this year, which is 10 months after you started doing business with them.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. When I said that within a certain context. What I said was that when these opportunities come, it's the seller that determines how they're going to sell their asset. GNPC doesn't decide how they're going to sell their asset. Now, in this particular context, and petroleum agreement has what we call, and what the seller would say, stabilization clauses that allowed them to do this within a certain framework. The new law is what has come in to say it has to be registered. Previously, it has to be incorporated in Ghana. Previously, you could be registered as an external company and operate in Ghana. These are petroleum agreements that came into being before the new law, 2016 Act 919. So when Anadarko decided to structure the acquisition the way it did, it was operating under the old law, and the PA stabilizes the contract. So it's allowed to do that within the context of the circumstances that existed at the time that they signed on or the petroleum agreement was ratified. And as has been said, initially it was GNPC, the intention was for GNPC to actually acquire it directly, so the participating interest. But Anadarko structured it differently because of the circumstances at that time. So GNPC took that stake with the intention of transferring the stake to ex-Bloco. But I think due to certain circumstances, GNPC was not able to do that immediately. But one of the reasons why GNPC went into this transaction was to increase reserves. And that has become a very, very important issue, not only for GNPC, but for government. And I think it's within that context that the Minister for Energy even approved the transaction in the first place. So I think we were looking at the priority of increasing reserves, also looking at the framework, obviously, but within the framework that Anadarko was operating, we think that they had the right to do what they did, and GNPC took on that interest with the intention of transferring to ex-Bloco to comply with Ghana law.
Sorry, thank you. Would you be so kind as to give the committee an idea of the structure of JOHL compared to ex-Bloco, because you keep referring to the fact that it has a different structure?
So when I talk about the different structure, it's just in terms of how it came into being. In terms of the structure of JOHL, GNPC is the majority shareholder of JOHL. It's also the majority shareholder of ex-Bloco. So ex-Bloco and JOHL are what we call affiliates. So they are related, but with GNPC holding 100% shareholding in both companies.
I'm getting a bit confused because you said majority shareholder. Now you're saying 100% shareholder.
Sorry,
which is
100% shareholding in both JOHL and ex-Bloco.
Okay, because earlier on you mentioned that there was an issue with the shareholders and the dividends to the shareholders not being brought directly into the Petroleum Holding Fund because the shareholders cannot have that. More or less, you kind of implied that, correct?
Yes, so
okay,
what I said, if I could clarify, was that when you look at the PRMA, it says revenue due to the Republic from the direct or indirect participation. And we're talking about, and I said the important words, keywords there were revenue due. What is due a shareholder from its subsidiary? And that is determined by the Companies Act. And that says that it's the dividends from the subsidiary that goes to the shareholder. So that's the explanation that I gave when that question was posed.
Honorable Chair, if I can add to that, in terms of treatment, I mean, the revenues of Esploco will not be treated any different from that of JOHL as far as GNPC is concerned, because they are both, they are, what do you call it? 100% owned by GNPC, subsidiary of GNPC. So the same application.
They are both limited liability companies.
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Is that to say that when the transfer from JOHL happens to Exploco, the money will still not be put into the Petroleum Holding Fund? Is that what that means?
Directly, yes.
Yeah.
It will still have to go in the form of dividends. Because it's still, Exploco is still a subsidiary of GNPC. So the revenue that goes in will be the dividends.
Yeah.
Honorable Chair, if I can make this point, I think there's a lot of focus on revenue. Nobody is talking about cost. I mean, these assets come with huge costs, and probably to explain, you know.
But why do you say nobody is talking about? You already told us the acquisition cost.
No. I'm talking about the operating cost.
Of the company?
Of the company.
Well, you set up your company, you expect to operate it at some cost. Who doesn't know that?
Yeah, but because, you see, when they talk about putting the revenue into PHF, nobody is talking about how we manage our
we seem to accept that you're not making losses. So whatever it is, you pay your cost and there's some revenue to put somewhere. That's what I think the concentration is about. It's not your cost.
Honorable Chair, I mean, we find ourselves currently in a regime of high prices. If price fall, you can't be too sure. The other point also that I wanted to make is
say that again. Which one can't we be too sure about?
So I'm saying that GOHL, currently oil prices are high.
Yes.
And you could find yourself in a situation where oil prices could be not so high. And so you need to manage your costs and other things very well. But I think the point I wanted to make is that GOHL carries GNPC. You see, I think we need to distinguish between the stake that GNPC has in the operating fields and what GOHL holds. GOHL is part of the contractor party. GNPC is not part of the contractor party. So as far as the arrangement is concerned, GNPC is carried by GOHL. I mean, in effect, what I'm saying is that when there are cash calls, GOHL has to pay GNPC shares of the cash call before even GNPC gets money to pay. So in that regard, GOHL is not very different from Cosmos or Tallow or, for that matter, PetroSA. And I think that distinction needs to be made and made in very clear terms. Yeah.
Have any dividends been paid so far into the Petroleum Holding Fund to date from JOHL, and could you share with us?
The only thing that has been paid is income tax. Now that we've registered it in Ghana, we have up to end of the year to put our financials together. The board, I'm sorry, no dividend has been paid. Yeah.
Honorable Rollins, please go ahead.
Honorable Chair, the only reason why I needed to explain is that dividend is only paid when you do your financials, you declare profit, the directors then decide that they have to pay dividend. But that hasn't happened, so I thought I needed to give that explanation.
Would GNPC be in a position to give us a reconciliation statement with regards to the difference in price from the 199 million, which also finally became 164,798,691 $1 million?
Readily, we will do that. We'll give that to you. Okay.
Do you have the reconciliation statement here?
But Mr. Co-Chairman, why would we be worried about that anyway? That's an advantage to the country. It was supposed to be 199. They did whatever computations, and then it came to 164.
It's in the interest of accountability and transparency.
You're worried that we got a reduced, rebated purchase price?
Honorable Chair, will make them available.
I know you can, but I'm just wondering if anybody is worried about the fact that it's been rebated and we're paying cheaper. Maybe suggest that we should have paid 200 million.
In fairness to the honorable members, testimony has been given that shows a difference okay, of about 20-something million, right? So the documentary evidence regarding that, difference can be made available to the committee to confirm.
It's not 24 million paid by Ghana. It's 24 million that Ghana had for free.
Yes, but still, it is important that that is confirmed, to the committee. So that's fine. It's not a problem. Okay, Honorable Rollins, have you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Very well. Honorable Imedo, do you have a question? You have questions? All right, please go ahead. I'm surprised that you have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Sir, thank you very much for the explanation. I think you make things clearer. What I want to find out from you is that with this transaction of the JHOL, would you say that it has given GMPC any advantage?
Yeah, it has. We're now part of the joint operating agreement, the JOA. So we sit with the contractor party, so decision making and all other things, JOHL is party to it. And so long as they are a subsidiary of GMPC, GMPCs can influence some of the decisions that are made direct. So, and obviously there's capacity building and all the other things. So those are things that, yes.
Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairs, let me seek leave of you before I ask my question, because I'm going to ask a question that borders on opinion, but permit my ignorance. I would want to understand things better. That's why I ask. It is not mischievous. If JHOL had not acquired the interest in, which company is that? Anadaco. What would have happened? What would have been the situation? Thank you.
So, Honorable Chair, JOHL, and I'm being very careful here. GMPC bought JOHL. So, like we said earlier, JOHL was established by Anadaco. So, GMPC bought it. Obviously, if JOHL had not been established by Anadaco with a 7% carved out interest, it meant that Cosmos would have had all the stake of Anadaco. Yeah, they would have. Yeah, obviously, they would have done so.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ahiefo.
Co-Chair, thank you very much. From the preliminary comment, you indicated clearly that the PIAC report was shared with you. However, you disagree with it. Now, PIAC report is now a public document. May I know what you have done to point out the contradictions?
Honorable Chair, we can only react to PIAC, and we sent, I think PIAC themselves alluded to it, that they disagree with our position as far as the treatment is concerned. So I think that's something that...
You have a copy of what you sent to PIAC in disagreement?
Yeah, we can send you. I think you read some of the reports that we sent to them. We can make available to you our report, or let me call it our comments to PIAC.
I said so because the co-chair said once GMPC is coming, you will make those documents available for us.
It says they are available, co-chairs. So is it one of the...
In other words, your correspondence with PIAC on these matters, yes, if you can make them available to the committee.
Do so, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the second question.
Mr. Speaker.
It is correct that oil was lifted amounting to 100,740,000 $48,907.95. That is United States dollars. And same was paid into international account in London, offshore accounts in London. Who holds these accounts in London?
The accounts are held by GOHL. So, so let me clarify this point. I think I said it earlier. Total revenue to date is 153 million. That's how much, in terms of receipts, how much we have gotten from sale of oil. Because I mentioned that we're pooling the cargoes. Out of that, we have paid roughly $147 million in terms of cash calls and taxes and other. Yes.
My question is simple regarding who hold the accounts.
Yes.
And you have answered it. Okay. Now, you also indicated to the committee that the money for the acquisition of the 7% was a loan from Ministry of Finance at interest. How much was the interest rate?
I think that the number, I need to work out the interest, but it adds up to additional $5.2 million. Yeah. We need to work that out.
The interest rate, is it 2%,
No, I'm not
3%,
sure of the
3%?
rates, but the amount is 5.2 million. Yes, so I need to work it out, but the interest amount is 5.2 million.
Do you have a document between you and the Finance Ministry?
There is.
To tender?
Yes.
Before us?
Yes.
To that effect?
Yes.
You also said Ministry of Energy has given you an approval. Do you have the approval letter?
Approval for... Yes, we do.
And you also said Parliament has approved the work program, which included the acquisition.
So, Honorable Chair, probably may need direction, and I'm being very careful. What I said was the acquisition, the intent was contained in our work program. There were no figures attached to it. So, to the extent that we made Parliament available of our intention, and Parliament did not...
You're seeking our direction and you're going ahead to answer the question.
Okay.
You've almost answered the question, so why not conclude?
Yeah, I think you should proceed because you are...
If I had asked, I would have said that you already answered it, but you have...
Please go ahead. Please go ahead and answer the question.
We're just saying that to the extent that it was contained in our work program and there were no issues with it, I mean, about the acquisition, yes.
You promised to make the approval of the work program available to the committee.
No, I wouldn't have the approval. We submit our work program, and if there are issues, they are discussed with the select committee. We are not giving approval specifically as to Parliament having. Obviously, we'll be told that the committee is.
You have senior members of the committee, committee you report to in Parliament here on this table, so don't struggle much with that issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well, Honourable Ahiapo.
Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Very well. We had earlier on decided that the Honourable Ejapa Mensah is conflicted and would not be allowed to ask any questions of the staff of GNPC. The witness, he's deeply conflicted, and I won't be surprised if he was apprised of everything before he came here. But in the interest of fairness, we've decided that he should ask just one question of the witness.
This is
just one question.
Unilateral decision, but you have no party to this one.
Katie,
so
that's not true. We
bear the burden by yourself. I'm not party to that.
Okay, Honourable Ejapa Mensah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the comment that you made as in jest, because indeed as a member of the committee, I reserve the right to ask questions.
Very well,
Save
very
that,
well.
I'm satisfied with the competent answers that have been provided by the members who represented GMPC.
I'm sure you will not fail to be satisfied.
Oh yes, indeed I am.
Yes.
Because I just wanted them to address this phraseology in the PIAC report, which suggests that the acquisition of the 7% interest in Jubilee and 10 by GMPC later ceded to its subsidiary. What would be their response to this assertion that indeed this was ceded to them, to JOHL? Yes. That's not what happened. So that's what I want them to clarify.
Very well. Yes, Mr. Dazi.
So, Honorable Chair, that's a wrong assertion. I mean, as we've explained, JOHL was already established by an ADACO with a 7%. We only bought the shares of that company. So that's a wrong assertion. And those are the things that the areas of disagreement that we have with PIAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman, for
your yes. Honorable Sama Blakwa, it looks like you have a follow-up question.
Just to find out if this loan agreement between you and GMPC and the Finance Ministry, I'm still being
Honorable Blakwa, please concentrate on asking the witness.
In line with Act 919, do we have any parliamentary approval on the agreement?
Yes. Mr. Dazi, do you have an answer to the question?
Honorable Chair, you know I explained earlier that we don't have a formal agreement corresponding, and you said legally that's a form of...
Yes.
Yeah, but we haven't come to Parliament.
Well, in terms of the formation of contracts, you don't need, a contract in the four corners of a paper, but it's also a legitimate question to ask whether or not the transaction had parliamentary approval. Okay, the Minister of Finance will be here tomorrow. I believe that that question can be asked of him. So,
if you allow me, I was just relying on section 1015 of Act 919, which provides that any borrowing exceeding the CD equivalent of 30 million United States dollars for the purpose of exploration, development, and production shall be approved by Parliament and shall be in consonance with the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815. So this is the basis for
that's the basis
for my question.
Counsel to GMPC, can you answer that question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the time that we entered into the transaction, I think because of the way the transaction went, we didn't seek parliamentary approval, but we intended to do that.
The time you intended to seek parliamentary approval, but could not because of the circumstances.
Yes.
All right. So it means that there is no parliamentary approval for that transaction.
For the loan, yes.
The loan.
GMPC is taking, the government of Ghana is giving some money to GMPC to acquire. Mr. Jodaze, I'm wondering why you're not taking this opportunity to explain to the committee and to Ghana how GMPC is suffering from governments of this country. You don't want to explain anything? Well, governments.
Honorable Chair, I alluded to it, and I think as a member of the Mines and Energy Committee, we've made
I know about this matter.
Yes,
so
and also to the Finance Committee about some other agencies' indebtedness to us.
Mr. Dazi, despite the help you are getting from my co-chair,
they didn't comply with any official loan agreement and anything from you. They just took your money. Now they're asking you, where is your contract, because you raised the money from somewhere. Those same people who have forced you not to have money. Now the question is, why didn't you come out with the contract? Yeah, okay. You got to be fair to GMPC, be fair to GMPC.
Yes. Despite, as I was saying, Mr. Joseph Dazi, despite the fact that the co-chair is asking questions about the circumstances under which you operate as a statutory corporation, you would agree, wouldn't you, that this is a transaction that ought to have come to Parliament for approval.
Yeah, my colleague has alluded, yes, has agreed to that. So we will rectify that.
Very well. Thank you very much. Yes.
So bear with me. That is let's get to two things right. Is that in terms of the acquisition itself or the financials?
It's a money advance to us by
government.
Yeah, by government. So post.
And you would have had the contract. The contract would have been between who and who?
Between us and Ministry of Finance.
The GMPC as a government entity, government corporation,
yeah,
and then government.
Yeah.
It's kind of on land or something.
Yes, I will be guided by what the lawyers say in terms of what the actual wording and structure should be.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, very well. Honorable members, are there any other questions? Yes, Honorable Ahiafo.
Yeah. Honorable Co-Chair, he mentioned that some capital gain tax payment has been made, of which he is aware. How much was the capital gain tax that was made? Aware? No, he said he is aware.
Honorable Chair, I need to check the figure, but I know it's in the region of about 170 million. Yeah, but we need to check and be very specific on the amount. Yeah.
Very well. Honorable members. Okay, Honorable Ajiman Rawlings.
Co-Chair, I'm just a little bit confused at the moment. Who has oversight over JOHL? Because a couple of the questions we've asked with regards to what JOHL is doing, GNPC has not been able to provide the information. That's why I just want a bit of clarity.
What information is that? What information do you need?
That's the specifics of tax that the...
No,
I didn't
excuse
say
me.
they had to pay.
In respect of let's get this clear, members of the committee. The capital gains tax was to be paid by Anadaco, because it's an Anadaco that made the gain from the sale of his capital asset. So that has to be made very clear. All right. So they will not be in a position to confirm whether or not it was paid, because the tax liability was not imposed upon them. Right? Or is not to be imposed upon them by law. Right.
There were a few other questions with regards to payments, which unfortunately we have not been able to get full details of, which is why I'm asking, who do we ask then? Because hence my generic question, who has oversight over JOHL and its activities?
Well, I would have thought that it depends specifically on the kind of payment you have in mind. If it's a payment by GMPC, they should be able to answer it for themselves. If it's a payment by the Ministry of Finance on behalf of Ghana, Ministry of Finance should be able to explain for themselves. So we should be clear in our minds which ones we're talking about.
Okay. You have a question?
Yeah, just
Honorable Kwame Nyimedu.
Just for clarity. Yeah. Okay.
I ask this for emphasis. The lawyer explains Section 7 of the Petroleum Revenue, and the phrase she explains is revenue due, whether it's direct or indirect. Is it your assertion to actually make this committee believe that in the opinion of GMPC, no revenue was due to be paid, so far as Section 7 is concerned?
So,
should
in terms of the dividends,
I go through it? Let me make it clearer. The PIAC report, the page 9, the semi-annual report.
2022 one.
Yes, sir. The page 9, the last paragraph, talks about Section 7 of the PRMA, provides that all revenues due from the direct or indirect participation of the Republic in petroleum operations, including the carried and additional participating interest, be paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund. PIAC is convinced that the proceeds of liftings by JOHL forms part of Ghana's petroleum revenues and therefore should be paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund. Now, you explain the phrase, as I have said, the revenues due. In your opinion, would you say that there was a revenue due which should have been paid but into this fund, or there was no revenue due? What is your take on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our take is that for the period that we are talking about, there's been no revenue due because the revenues that PIAC was referring to was from each lifting. And as we've explained, in relation to limited liability companies, we don't pay revenues to shareholder every time you sold a product. So our explanation is that there's been no revenue due. The revenue will be due after we have done our accounts and determined whether there's been profit, and then from that, dividends will be paid. So far, no, we haven't had any, there's no profit, and so no dividends are payable. It will be at the end of the year that a determination can be made as to whether we will be able to pay any dividends to GNPC.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have another question? Kwame?
Last question.
Very last.
In your view, therefore, anybody who says that the Ministry of Finance or the Minister of Finance had made illegal payments of oil revenues into offshore accounts in violation of the Constitution would not be speaking the truth. Is that correct?
Honorable Chair, I am not in a position to agree or disagree with that statement because I don't know.
Let me make it clearer. If by this transaction, let me make it clearer. Can I ask another question?
For her to be able to take a position.
Can I ask another question? Can I ask another question? What I want.
Very last one, seriously.
Right. What I want to say is that per the transaction of the JOHL with respect to the liftings, with this transaction alone, if any person concludes that the Minister of Finance, no, I'm specific, if the Minister of Finance had actually made illegal payments with respect to oil revenues, that person would not be speaking.
You see, the question is very argumentative. However, I get, the reason why you are asking the question, because the ground that we are investigating says that there was an illegal payment, okay, made of oil revenue. Okay, so directly, Mr. Joseph Dazi, and if maybe Adjoa could assist in that respect. So the lifting was done by Jubilee Holdings. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, Honorable Chair.
Okay. And the 100 million constituted receipts of the sale of the oil. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
And it was Jubilee Holdings that received the money.
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Was it Jubilee Holdings that paid it into an account?
So, as I explained, it's the lifter, the buyer who pays it into an account designated.
So, in this case, who was the buyer?
So, I think.
Do you have any information?
So, I think the 100 million referred, Tallow bought that cargo.
Okay, so it was Tallow that bought the oil.
Yes.
And Tallow subsequently paid 100 million into an account of Jubilee Holdings.
Specified by JOHL.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So, that will be all for you.
Yes.
Oh, no, the opinion is not necessary.
Transaction illegal.
But why? You don't need to.
From what he's been talking about, what is the illegality about it? They have the oil. They sold it to what is the name company? Which is the name? Tallow. Tallow then were instructed to pay the money of the goods that they had bought into an account designated by them. Where is the criminality in this matter? That's what the co-chairman is trying to.
No. Honorable Katie, nobody has attributed criminality.
Well, what is the illegality? Illegality is criminality.
No. Not every illegal act is criminal.
You can violate
a statute without criminal.
So let's get it right. What is the illegality on this? That's what I think co-chairman is.
No, we are not asking them for their opinion. We will form an opinion based upon the factual evidence they place before us. All right, honorable members, I think we should bring an end to this session. Okay.
No, Chair, I thought there was an important outstanding issue from a response I received.
Yes.
On the violation of Act 919, Section 1015. The response is that they will comply. I just want to understand if that is allowed. I mean, can you comply after the fact? I thought that you must seek parliamentary approval before.
Well, parliamentary approval could retrospectively be sought, rather that we agree that we are going to.
No, by what provision?
This is not for us. This is for the speaker.
No, Act 919 is very clear.
This is for the speaker. If there's a breach on that, that is not why we are here. We are here under paragraph 3 or 4 of the allegation. Let's deal with that. If we have any other worries, we'll deal with that on the floor.
Yeah.
Comprom?
In this matter, we say that.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Mr. Joseph Dazi and your team, thank you very much for attending upon the committee and testifying. Just in case we have any other issues that we need clarification for, we may have to call you back, either call you back or write to you formally for you to provide that information. But I thank you very much on behalf of my co-chair and the committee for your attendance upon the committee and for the evidence that and assistance you have provided to the committee. Thank you.
Co-chair, before they rise, GMPC. Yesterday it was Esploco. Then as I say, nobody seems to be able to pronounce the name. JHOLTK. They said that look at it, GMPC. Fix this masters. We are tired. Also, your committee in Parliament, we are tied. GMPC. Today, GMPC. Tomorrow, GMPC. 3 days, GMPC.
And the impression could be created that
you thank them already. This is my comment.
You are creating this.
To be my comment. You are creating
this so that you can circumvent the statutory obligations you have.
All right. That's not it. Yes. But fix these matters. Fix them once and for all, so sanity can prevail.
Okay, that's well noted, Chair. And we'll also send the additional information that you have requested. We'll make them available to you.
Very well.
Okay.
I thought you add that it is for the ministers of state not to be leading them into temptation. The ministers direct policy. So I don't think that. I think we are
struggling a lot.
I think we are blaming the wrong guys.
And the deputy minister is here. He's part of.
No, you're talking about him. You are not talking about Kofi Bua. You are not talking about
I take strong exception.
Yeah, you would
to this
and
accusation
I support you 100%.
chairman
100%
on the NDC side.
100%. But they started it.
Mr. Dazi, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are discharged. Yes.
For the other, you remember, what is the name again? Press, media. Tomorrow is what, 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. That's for your information. So you can leave now. Leave us alone.
Yes, we will be sitting at 10 a.m.
You can come at 9:30. We don't have any problem with that. Yeah.
Very well.